But their story didn't end there.
How could there have been only one? And he's back in business.
Is the worst idea in the history of bad ideas.
Part 2 is the final chapter in the violent history.
This time, it's personal.
Welcome to Revenge of the Sequel, the podcast. What? Were you going to say it instead of me?
I was going to break up with you, is what I said.
Oh, no.
Not the intro.
Welcome to Revenge of the Sequel, the podcast just about sequels. And this is a very special Patreon exclusive episode. No one else. This is for your ears only on
Nobody
Patreon.
Else. It's just you guys.
Yeah, it's just you guys.
Just you guys.
So there are normally full episodes of the show that y'all get to listen to before they're on the public feed, months before. This episode will not be on the public feed ever. It is only going to be for you, our Patreon subscribers.
Yes.
And it's a little fun for us because it's really, really relevant. It's about a new movie.
Oh my God, I'm so excited about this one, to be honest.
But my name's Emmanuel.
My name is Sofia.
And John and Andrew are off doing their own thing. So this is kind of a quarantine episode. It's just Sofia and I, lovers at last.
Right. Why you always got to bring that up? I mean, I
want everyone to know.
I feel like by now they should know.
This is like me. Oh no.
What?
I was gonna say marking you, but that what does that even mean?
What? I don't know. I don't know.
It's like me marking you as
territory.
Well,
that's great.
On a podcast.
That's awesome.
Because all of those dudes that listen to podcasts will always be. Well, so we're talking about a movie. I know. We're talking about a movie. It's not necessarily a sequel, but it is a reimagining and a live action reboot of a Disney movie.
Yes.
That we all love.
Probably one of my favorite Disney movies, if we're being totally honest. Like, it's definitely one of my top 5.
It's a classic.
It is a Disney classic. And I honestly don't think I was expecting it to be so amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, scratch that. Of course it was going to be amazing, but the fact that it was not a musical, hint.
Well, let's talk about the movie first. We're talking about Mulan.
Yeah. I thought we were gonna build it up some more.
No. But yeah,
go
continue. I just didn't want people to not know what we're talking about.
Yeah, we're talking about Mulan. I mean, and when all of the press first came out and everybody was saying that it wasn't going to be a musical and that Mushu was not going to be in it and that some other stuff, I forgot what else. I was kind of bummed, only because I loved Beauty and the Beast so much, because it's just honestly like a shot for shot interpretation of the animated version, but like also they added their own little spin-off on things, which I thought was great. I loved it. So I don't know what I was expecting coming into Mulan. Obviously it was going to be fabulous. Females all across the board, right? Director, producers, writer, Director of cinematology. Is that a thing?
Scientology.
Cinematography. Is that the right way to say it? Okay, thank you. But amazing. Just freaking chef's kiss. Chef's kiss, my dude. I loved it.
Well, it sounds like you're already starting with your review, but with the original Mulan.
Were we not supposed to?
Well, no, I was just going to ask
rules
you.
To this?
No, there are no rules. But the original Mulan, how old were you when you first saw the animated classic?
Oh my gosh. I mean, maybe like 3, 2. I was a little tiny baby. And I mean, I had it on VHS. I had all the diamond VHSs. So Disney's like in my veins.
That's I think it's one of the it's on the Mount Rushmore of princess movies, at least from that period. Yeah, I mean, and I think you already brought up the fact that there were some big differences reported when this movie was going into production.
Yeah.
And I feel like that what we ended up with was pretty good comparably. I don't know if it necessarily needed
It's a fantastic review.
all the extra things. But yeah, let's dive into it. What are some of the things that you liked about the Mulan live action? Spoiler free.
Oh, okay. I was like, spoiler free? I don't know what to... Well, I do love... I didn't think that I was going to miss the... I'm sorry. I thought that I was going to miss having songs in the actual movie, like them breaking out into music.
Yeah.
But I didn't. Like, I didn't miss that at all, to be honest. I do love all the action that they added to it. And even some of the characters that they kind of nodded off to from the original one. I loved that. The story basically stays the same, right?
Yeah, I think that it's more aligned to the actual mythology of Mulan.
Yes.
It definitely isn't just about it's a very layered, and there are new characters in it.
Mm-hmm.
It's very grand and still just as epic as the animated version. But it introduces new characters that are part of the mythology, like of the actual Chinese story that's been passed down. And the animated film was definitely adapted for a wider audience. So, the love story, the music, the choreography, even the way that so much of the animated film was made to appeal to a large, mostly American audience. And I feel like in this movie, it's a co-production with the country of China.
Right.
They were very careful to make sure that it was true to the actual story of Mulan. I feel like that's also partially why they didn't include like a super comedic Mushu character or really music, like a musical, because that's something that doesn't translate necessarily to like the Chinese story of mythology.
I couldn't agree more. I thought that I first of all didn't even know that OG Mulan was based off of that story, because obviously over here different culture, different everything. But so having that whole new perspective of what it was supposed to have been, I guess, was way more impressive this time around, because I was like, oh, you know what, that makes sense. Or even from the first movie I was like, oh, you know what, that part of it makes sense. Or just vice versa. Like it was just so much more insightful. And that's why I think that's why I didn't miss the music and all that jazz.
This is I think it's such a good, well-crafted movie. I mean, apart from it being a Disney, obviously a really big name that everyone recognizes, and definitely, it cost a couple $100 million. I think that it's just a really good movie. And I think that that's what these Disney live-action remakes should focus on. Get a good director. Sorry, that is our cat. One of our cats just went off on our puppy for some reason. But the director, Nicola Caro, she is from New Zealand. We've actually seen clips of one of her movies called Whale Rider. I don't know if you remember going to that whale exhibit. And
in Australia?
No. Here at the Whitty, we went to that whale museum exhibit. Okay. And there were some stories about people riding whales.
Oh yes, I remember this.
She made the movie Whale Rider. That's her. That's her. Those are her clips. But yeah, this movie definitely has its own style. We already talked about.
It's so pretty.
I wouldn't be surprised if it gets nominated for production design and costume as well, because it's very well done.
The colors just, oh my gosh, freaking again, chef's kiss. Like I loved it. It was so vibrant, when it needed to be.
Yeah.
But when it came to all the action stuff, you definitely felt a totally different vibe, because like you knew if she had to be badass or whatever the situation was, like it was very, very appropriate. Loved all of it.
Yeah. And I think what's really special is you still get the characters that you love from the original.
Most.
The relationships are, I think, maybe even just a little bit better. They're definitely a lot. They're very fleshed out.
Yeah.
The Mulan's dad is such a good character and actor.
Mulan herself.
Like
actress.
There are a lot of things that are better in live action than animated, and I think emotions are one of them. There's something about seeing like actors act that is special. And I always feel like we went through this with the Lion King live action thing where,
they had to put like eyebrows but thicker than
I mean, that was a case where
that was harder.
Yeah, like
that's way harder.
The animated version.
It's like asking them to make a live action to Finding Nemo. Like that's gonna be totally,
just fishes. Yeah. But like that's one of the cases where the animated version had a little bit of a oddly more human connection. But I mean, when you translate live action humans, it's a much better result. But yeah, I think that's something that's really good is if you're going to make something live action, and I guess I can ask you this because Disney's planning on doing this a lot. There's a live action Pinocchio. There's live action.
The Dumbo too. The
Dumbo
was really
live action.
Interesting to see.
That was a wild. But I feel like this is a great version, or a great adaptation. And I don't know what you think about live action Disney movies because I know that a lot of times they just want to capitalize on nostalgia. Like they just want you to go because of the music and I mentioned that already for the adaptation of Beauty and the Beast. Like I loved it partially because it was still a musical and then partially because it was like a shot for shot remake of the first one. Yeah. Like it legitimately is just everything. And so I don't know. I feel like I kind of like them if they are done appropriately. So Dumbo I was not about because it was very weird. It was more it wasn't even
that's just my opinion of it. I didn't feel like it followed it followed the story for sure, but it just was they added so much new stuff and I think they really needed to kind of focus more on the nostalgia part of it just to keep up with the actual story. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But this I feel like again even though it wasn't a shot for shot, even though it was their own version of it, it still kept along with the original story. It didn't like disrespect it in any way. It was just done in a perfectly I don't know how to explain it. It was just it was a great adaptation for it.
You kind of got to see the framing. There are definitely sequences from the original animated film that you see, but it keeps the theme alive. But I think that that adaptation part, that making it not a shot for shot remake, is what makes this movie good. I think.
Yeah, it would have been way too old if it would have kept all of the shots in. If we're being honest, because of some scenario, I don't want to spoil anything, but because of some scenarios in the movie, that you were probably expecting from the first one to happen, this one just didn't, which I actually kind of loved. Because it's 2020, you know what I mean? She's a badass.
Yeah, and
her best life.
I know it sounds super simple, but the animated version is really silly. I mean, there's a lot of jokes in it.
Yeah.
And I feel like a story like this, if you made this like a straight up comedy, I don't think that would be very great or respectful.
I don't think this one was supposed to be a comedy.
Yeah, and it's not.
It's an action movie.
But if you watch like the animated version, there's plenty. Just the inclusion of Mushu. But it's good because that's an animated film for kids and stuff.
Also, the cast of this movie was just so perfect. Like I know we talked about the dad for a second in Mulan, but like who plays the other characters, I feel like it's just a great cast, and they just like that sounds so dumb. Like I was thinking about it before I said it, but it looks like they really took the time to see how each cast member was going to interact with the other, to see how they were going to do their lines, but also just act as a unit, because you can definitely tell, I think, throughout the entire movie, they just act with each other versus independently. I think Mulan is the only one that kind of strays off for a moment.
Yeah.
But the rest of them are just kind of shot together, and they just have this whole vibe of a family, and it's just so nice.
Yeah, I'll go down some of the lessons since we brought it up. Liu Yifei plays Mulan. I butcher some of these names. You're going
to try to say all the names? Okay.
Donnie Yen, I know how to say his name. He's Commander Tung, who is the leader of the Imperial Army. We love him in Rogue One.
Yes,
Jason Scott Lee is Bora Khan. Yosan An is Chen Hong Yu, who is a new character.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to spoil it. Gong Li is Xian Lang. Jet Li is the Emperor of China. Zi Ma, who is Hua Zhao, and Rosalind Chow is Hua Li. I bring up the cast and like Liu Yifei, who is Mulan, and I something we probably aren't going to talk about too much is the fact that this movie has some controversy attached to it. Because of her.
Of the drama?
Yeah, outside of the movie. And again, like, obviously judge it on its own merits.
The
but this is a very heavy China approved movie.
Well, yes.
And we all know that there are some issues in the past, not even the past, just currently with China and their policies and the way they treat Hong Kong, and then also their family planning programs. And I couldn't help but detach kind of the theme of this movie, which is also family
100%.
and devotion to family and country.
Yeah.
And those are fantastic, honorable themes. But I feel like if you look at it for the filter of Disney had to get everything approved by China, you kind of start to feel like, oh, is this just propaganda in a weird way?
Yeah.
And then also the lead actress spoke out against the protests in Hong Kong, which some people want this movie to be boycotted because she's basically a mouthpiece for the Chinese government outside of the movie. So that shouldn't I don't know. I don't know what your relationship is. It probably taints this movie a lot for a lot of people, but it's on Disney Plus, so a lot of people are probably going to see it as well. So I just want to bring that up just so everyone knows that we're super aware of it. Like, we're not naive to that fact.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, that's also something you may think about, especially after this movie. And if you're thinking about the way that it may be seen in China as like a message.
Yeah. Or you can put your Disney glasses on and just like
put on your Disney glasses on.
Focus on the Disney part of
Yeah.
it.
Like, oh, this is fine.
You do you.
Yeah, this is perfect. They're not offending me. But yeah, well, any final thoughts on Mulan? I know it's $30 right now, but it will be no, it's not free because you're paying for it, but it'll be on Disney Plus in November or like in the fall.
Yeah, I think for the winter holidays.
What are your final thoughts?
I mean, just see it. You gotta see it. You gotta at least see it once. I'm gonna definitely see it again. I think right after we watched it, we watched the OG one just to see how they differ. And like 5 minutes in, we were like, "Damn, this is already a huge difference amongst the two," just because of I don't want to say anything else on it. But yeah, no, it's. Love it. I mean, you got to go watch it at least once. At least give it a chance.
Yeah, it's really good. I mean, it's a complete as a film. It's very complete. I think we already talked about it having its own style, but I think you do have to see it a couple times to fully appreciate it. This isn't a spoiler, but you know the Phoenix is a huge part of this movie,
right?
And there's a lot of phoenixes everywhere, like hidden, and like the detail is fantastic. And I feel like this should be the goal for most live action adaptions is to, call back and have that nostalgia, but also be separate in ways that make you want to watch both of these movies. Yeah. I think it's a testament to this Mulan that we wanted to watch the old one. And there are plenty of live action remakes where you would just prefer watching the animated one. Yeah. And be like, the live action, I'd rather watch the.
But it's nice to get it right.
Yeah. But this one, you can watch both of them and still get different experiences, which is fantastic.
I think that right there is the key. Yeah. To be able to watch both of them and still love them and get different experiences, but love them in their own way. Yeah. That's perfect.
Yeah. Same title, though. I'm just kidding. All right. Well, hey, this is for you. Your ears only, for Patreon. You guys. Thanks so much for supporting the pod. It means so much.
It really does.
Yeah.
Especially now more than ever.
We are slowly trying to figure out the best way to get through the pandemic, I think, with like remote records. I know they're not perfect. I know the quality isn't great on some of these records, but I feel like we may be getting it closer and closer.
You guys don't know this, but Emmanuel really stays up until like 3 a.m. sometimes, 4 a.m. sometimes, just trying to get everything right.
Oh my God, yeah. I just had to sync a podcast earlier. Don't want
to disappoint anyone.
Different microphones, it was a mess. Yeah. Well, this one's going to be easier because we're together.
Together.
All right, everyone. Thanks so much. Have a great week. Thanks for supporting us.